Yeah.
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
In this lesson, I'd like to go over words and expressions you can use when you discuss movies with other people.
Oh, dude. Tubular.
As far as I know, everybody loves movies. I love movies, I'm sure you love movies, and there's lots of words that have to do with movies that you might not be familiar with, but they're very good to know if you want to talk about movies with your friends or whoever.
No way. Yes way, Ted. Oh, yeah.
Where's Bill? Where's Bill?
Please stop hitting me.
Where's Bill?
I don't know who Bill is.
Bullshit! I know I fucked you over. I fucked you over bad. I wish to God I hadn't, but I did. You have every right to want to get even. No. Get even? Even Steven? I would have to kill you. Go up to Nikki's room, kill her. Then wait for your husband, the good Dr. Bell, to come home and kill him. That would be even, Frida. That'd be about square.
In Africa, the saying goes, in the bush, an elephant can kill you, a leopard can kill you, and a black mamba can kill you. But only with the mamba, and this has been true in Africa since the dawn of time, is death sure. Hence its handle, death incarnate. Pretty cool, huh?
There's the superhero, and there's the alter ego. Batman is actually Bruce Wayne. Spider-Man is actually Peter Parker. When that character wakes up in the morning, he's Peter Parker. He has to put on a costume to become Spider-Man. And it is in that characteristic that Superman stands alone. Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent. His outfit with the big red S. That's the blanket he was wrapped in as a baby when the Kents found him. Those are his clothes. What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. That's the costume Superman wears to blend in. Clark Kent is how Superman views it. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak. He's unsure of himself. He's a coward.
Oh, yeah.
Any of you sons of bitches got anything else to say? Now's the fucking time!
How old was M. Night? How old was M. Night when he hit real good with Sixth Sense? He was probably in his early 30s to mid 30s.
I think he was like 28 or something.
28,
around there.
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of hot young directors. He's the first one that comes to mind, but that was 25 years ago now, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have a buddy of mine that thinks that the debut of any kind of creator is the most purest form of that creator. Like nothing that he can do after that is going to be any good as this raw piece of debut, whatever it is. And you can't change this person's mind. But I've always been a cat that's always been like, what does it look like, 20 years down the line? After they got 20 years under their belt, can they still be, half of what they were if they were raw and, and trying to say something and whatever, like that's the challenge in my eyes, because anybody can be just as, like motivated, especially when you're young and you're passionate. I mean, that's where the real shit comes from. But I've always enjoyed the later down the career, like the 4 or 5 tries. Are they still just as consistent and and popular and trying to say something and groundbreaking? People say that about Nolan. And I thought he was on that. I thought he was on that path until he did Tenet. But and now he's just pulling a fucking Kevin Smith. Now he's just going back to the well. With really confusing sci-fi. But I thought he did a great job with Dunkirk. I thought that was a great direction to go.
Anthony, I'm curious, real quick. Sorry, Charles. Sure. What's your take on Tenet?
Oh, mine?
Yeah,
I loved it, and I got it the first time I watched it. I watched it at home during the pandemic, but I bought it the digital version through iTunes, and
I figured that's right up your alley. I love that stuff. As a thinker, it's great. It's a Nolan film.
I love sci-fi.
I've watched it 3 times now, and I'm still like, it's still just, it's confusing at times, and I see why the public, the masses, were like, this is a lot. But I still love it. I love his style. I love everything about him. But I figured that was a total Anthony style film. Yeah. I know you very well. I've known you a long time, and I was like, ooh, this is total thinker. And
no, I
that's
remember
the first Nolan film I haven't seen in theater since maybe like The Prestige. That's how long ago.
I saw that. I had to see it in theaters. It was. I saw it at that nice theater in Clear Fork with the speakers in the seats, and of course it's a Nolan Hans. No, actually Zimmer took a break that time. It's the Swedish guy.
Göransson.
Yeah, Göransson. Which is he did
that's
an amazing
Coogler's
job.
guy. That was Coogler's roommate at USC. A lot of people don't even know that. Yeah,
I don't know that.
Yeah,
I just thought he was a little protege of Hans Zimmer, but
no,
he did a great job with the soundtrack. But man, I'm glad I got to see it in the theater in those seats. It was epic.
Oh, I'm sure. My favorite thing about that movie is after the fact is reading people's theories and stuff. And the one theory that I just couldn't get out of my brain, and once I did it, I was like, I bet you that's actually right, because Nolan does stuff like that. That that theory that Pattinson's character is the kid, and that's why he knows everything about John David Washington, because that dude saved his life when he was a kid, and so you have all that time forward that basically why Pattinson and him are so close, even though he doesn't remember Pattinson.
Oh,
interesting.
I mean,
no,
I thought it was crazy with Inception, and then he just went to another level with Tenet. It was too far for me. I was Inception level. I'm like, all right, I got that. I got this. I'm good. But then Tenet, I'm like, this the whole time. I walked out like, man, I just want to go watch something funny. I want to go watch Dumb and Dumber to get back on my level.
Now
balance things out.
All right. Well, before we get too deep into Christopher Nolan's filmography, I do have an intro to get to, guys. So let me go ahead and knock this thing out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spittin Tha Reel Sh, the only weekly movie podcast made exclusively by, for, and about the online Facebook group, The Reel Shit. And you are catching us on a very special day because this is our 91st episode ever. And this week, we are doing something that surprisingly we have never done on this show, which is talk about Quentin Tarantino. We watched both volumes of the epic Kill Bill saga, and we're going to break them down along with the return of the top 3 and a bracket update and a talk with our special guest. My name is Charlie Thompson, founder, administrator, and bracket master of The Reel Shit. And joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow administrator, one of Mike Dexter's boys, the midnight movie maniac himself, Ryland Johnson. What's going on, man?
Pai Mei taught me the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. He taught me it was during COVID. He didn't have much to do, so we just hung out, and he taught me how to explode your heart in 5 steps.
Very nice, very nice. And joining us is we have a fairly new TRS member joining us this week. Longtime friend of the Triple M, and at one time a cog in the movie making machine. Anthony Foreman, how are you, sir?
Doing great, thank y'all. And I'm just in the process of trying to wiggle my big toe.
There you go. There you go. I like it. I like it. So all the cards on the table, guys. This is actually the second time the three of us are meeting.
Yeah.
We made an attempt to get this episode in last week, but there was technical issues abound. It just couldn't be helped. It's a lost piece of TRS media. It will never see the light of day. But we reached out to Anthony again. He was kind enough to give us some more time, kind of do a redo, kind of like the old boat episode, which is funny because at the end of last episode that we tried, I had mentioned the boat phenomenon.
Yeah.
You jinxed it.
And then bam, and now we're here.
Doing it. We're doing a true volume 2. Volume 2.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Following our Tarantino, ways, and this one will probably be a little better, a little smoother. I'm trying to remember what I said, but that was a week ago. So
yeah,
here we go. It'll probably be completely different, knowing me.
As a creative, I am never a big fan of the first draft. I always find that to be a good chassis. Throw that shit away and try again. Usually the second try is probably the better way to go. But I wanted to kind of get to know Anthony because Ryland hit me up. He had an idea for an episode. He said, "Hey, I got this buddy of mine who actually used to work in the movies. I'd love to have him on, kind of talk with him. And I would let you take the reins here, Ryland. This is your buddy. What's going on?"
He's Anthony Foreman of the Foreman brothers. Jeremy and I were in the same grade in high school, middle school. Anthony's a year and a half, 2 years older. But, him being the older brother of my best bud growing up, he was always around. And I remember him, he always had the cool room you weren't allowed to go into because it was pristine. He had the nice TV. He had the DVD collection that he was starting to build in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I was always peeking around because he always had the cool gadgets, the cool new shit. If you had a decent DVD player and a brand new copy of The Matrix and late 90s DVD classics, you were pretty cool to me. So we always bonded over video games and movies. So he's known about the page for a while, and I'm just glad to have him on. I've told him about it forever. I'm like, you're perfect, dude. You've worked on movie sets. You've worked behind the scenes. So come on the show.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to be here.
What up, Anthony?
Yeah. What up?
But yeah, man, I mean, me and him go way back. We have the same. Like I said, we're all about the same age, same affinity and love for action. Just crazy. He was kind of the first guy that I knew that was into some of what I would call the indie films of the 90s. Yeah. Some of the stuff that the Pulp Fictions and I know Fight Club was an indie, but I didn't know about it until Anthony had it on his shelf. So. He was the guy that I looked up to and when it came to movie knowledge. Then he went off and did it. He went to school and ended up being on movie sets.
Yeah, so tell us about that, Anthony.
Yeah, so basically for years I just worked and went to school part-time. I think a lot of us did that kind of route and stuff, and then got laid off from a soul-sucking insurance job and decided that, you know what, I'm just going to send out a resume and basically tell people I work hard, but I love movies and stuff. And if they would give me a chance or whatever, I'd come on unpaid. Yeah. And went that route and got really fortunate because I'm not sure if they do it much anymore, but the Texas Film Commission back then, they used to do these little weekend certification things. Like sometimes they were 1 day, sometimes they were 2 or 3 days, but they did locations, production accounting, how to be a PA. Trying to think, I think I did a grip one or something like that too. So at least with that, I ended up on this email list with the film commission, and they used to post these indie jobs and stuff like that. And I would just send this resume that, was very, very basic, but I had those certifications on there, like Texas Film Commission certificate for this, that, and that.
Talk about like a crash course. It's like 1 day, 2 day, they're like, learn this shit, learn it quick and get out there. I love it. Like I feel like that's the film industry behind the scenes. They just want hands. They need hands. They need people to move shit around and do shit.
Yeah, and that's a lot of actually like kind of what it was. And it was taught by film professionals. Like these were people that worked in Texas or had worked in other stuff. Like the big thing I did mostly on movies and TV sets. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, but mainly like my big stuff is locations work, which is a lot of work that no one even knows much about unless you're kind of in the industry or fall into it. But like the guy that taught my location scout class in Austin, he was the guy that was the location manager for like Groundhog Day. And so he talked a lot about like Groundhog Day and
Puxatawny.
Yeah, and how that's not really a hotel. It was a house and they put a facade on it and it made it a bed and breakfast and stuff. And so it's like stuff like that is it's cool. It's cool when you learn from people that have done it and they see how hungry the people are that are there. And I just got really fortunate after that. The film commission, you're on an email list, and so you get these like little reminders. And I'll even suggest to people now, like I've gotten some gigs or like gone to some cool screenings and stuff. Like you wouldn't think it, like being a guy, but like the Women in Film Dallas group, they send out some of the best emails and best jobs. And hey, here's a free screening here. Here's a free screening here. And I mean, there's so many different members. And I went to film school at UNT. And loved it. Went to grad school there for film. Pandemic happened and didn't finish my thesis in time, but thinking I might try to attempt that again and see if they'll give me another shot to finish it off. But yeah, so that's kind of my background in terms of the schooling and stuff. I mean, I just loved it. And if you're going to go to school for something, it won't make you a lot of money, I'll tell you that. But if you're going to go to school for something, I've always been the type is like, go for something you love. And I love movies and TV.
Agreed. I have the added benefit of never actually being in any form of the movie biz, like ever, even like at a blockbuster level. So I've still always been kind of a fan of movies, and I've never been kind of jaded in that way, to where I got a peek behind the curtain and I was like, fuck this. I like it's still very magical to me. Which is kind of like the way I like to keep it. I mean, making this show, I mean, you learn a few things about production, but like on a major motion picture, you see your days and then you see the final product and you're like, man, that's a crazy, and all you're looking at is, the mistakes,
right.
Or like what could have been, whatever. And
yeah.
so,
but you know what, I will say I mean, even on some of the indies, and I mean, whether or not like you have a sound issue here or, the one shot's kind of like blown out or something because you didn't get the coverage that probably you wish, there's still something really magical about seeing it on a big screen, whether it's at a festival and it's a small film or whether or not, I mean, it's a big, huge film that's, going to gross $1 billion plus. I've been fortunate enough to work on the really cheap ones and worked on the over $1 billion one in terms of grosses and stuff. But yeah, it's still very magical.
With Marky Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
it's work with Mark on that fourth Transformer movie. What did it make? At least $1 billion, at least.
Oh, it was like I think 1.1 or 1.2 or something. It's still like up there like a top 10. Well, into the MCU stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's like a top 10 or top 15 grosser all time.
No doubt.
And I'll tell you what, I've only watched it one time when it came out in theater.
See, that's their secret, is they need to get everybody to watch it at least one time.
Yeah, that's
for it to make 1.1.
And we did.
Yeah, they need everybody in America to watch it one time, and then they need basically all of China to watch it.
Yeah.
And then it's that.
But man, I mean, that's an easy sell in China. Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, dude, they filmed it
got
there
all
for like a
the
month.
CGI action, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their jam over there. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize how that market is. I unfortunately didn't get to go to work on that part of it. I only got to do like the month or so in Texas, which is where we filmed a lot of it. And then I think they maybe did like a week in like Chicago or Pittsburgh or something. And then they did like I think a month in oh gosh, where was it? Shanghai or something like that over there. So yeah, some of my friends got to go and do the China part.
I mean,
That
you got Michael
shooting
Bay
portion.
money. I mean,
So
Yeah.
I'm sure the budget
wait.
was 300 million.
So is this number 4 or number 5?
This was number
Trace?
4, Age of
Number 4.
Extinction.
Okay.
It was the
man,
first one without Shia, correct? Or was it the
Yeah,
second one
yeah.
without him?
No, it's the first one. Basically, that first trilogy has Shia, and then
Yeah.
the second trilogy is like after the war is over.
Yeah.
So it's like Wahlberg, T.J. Miller, who's an awesome homie, and Nicola Peltz, who just married David Beckham's kid. The
Oh,
wow.
yeah. So well, I didn't know it at the time. I'd heard the rumors, and she was one of like the sweetest girls. She was on the Bates Motel show that I'd been watching at that time.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like, and she was like so cool. But yeah, come to find out, like her dad's like a billionaire. He's like worth
Oh.
like 8 billion or something. It's like I'm sitting there just talking to this girl, and she was totally cool, like how we're chatting now and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, had no idea until later that it's like, oh yeah, she's like an heiress.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, she's got like 7 or 8 siblings though too. So I mean,
Yeah, but a
yeah.
billion spreads out pretty good with even with 7
Yeah.
or 8 people. I mean, I'll be all right. Just
Yeah.
give me 200 million, dude. I'm fine, Dad. I'll be all right.
So Transformers, was that like your first gig out of the film commission or what?
No, actually, that wasn't even through the film commission. You don't get on something like that really through the film commission. Like we were fortunate enough that Transformers came to the state at least for a month or a couple months
Sure.
as a film industry. And I don't know how much y'all know about like how Texas works, but basically every 2 years our film budget gets done. So basically a lot of times we'll have 2 years of like really really good jobs where a lot of people come in, bring productions in from like Cali or other places like that, and then the state, the Congress and stuff will be like oh hey, this really doesn't make us a whole lot of money, even though it puts a lot of people like me and my friends, like it gives us literally jobs, like thousands of jobs for people.
Yeah.
And otherwise then we have to leave the state or not work or take a break for a couple years. But every 2 years they kind of drop that budget in half or sometimes cut it depending on who's running for office or things like that. So that part kind of sucks sometimes, but overall, like there's a 2 year stretch, we'll have a real healthy like incentive budget. And then the next 2 years, when people realize that like we're doing really well, then New Mexico or Louisiana will up theirs. And then you got like Georgia just built this whole thing from scratch, like out of nowhere over the last decade. And
Oh, yeah.
that's the reason, Marvel, Tyler Perry, like everybody's down there because the incentives are just great. And I mean, they literally just built
Right.
studios because they decided, Georgia was like, hey, we want these jobs. We want people to come here. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like around the time Transformers came here, California, they had cut a lot of their stuff. But then when everybody started going other places, then California was like, hey, we'll give you an incentive to come back. And people will always come back because a lot of the producers, directors, everybody like that, they either went to USC or they filmed out there in the studio system. And
Right.
so like for them it's easy to just go back to doing that stuff, whereas here in Texas, even when we have the big films, it's kind of like it's still very small. Like I worked with a lot of the same people on 7, 8, 9, 10 different productions, whether it's commercials or episodes of television or seasons of television. But I've been
Yeah.
real fortunate, and I can say without a doubt, like I don't know who all has HBO Max or watches the HBO shows or things like that, but there's a reason they have higher quality. Yeah, because I mean, they just like they treated us. Anytime I've ever worked for them, they treated all the crew, everybody, just awesome, paid well, like just took care of us. And
HBO always felt like the king to me. back in the day of all the three, I guess HBO, Cinemax, and Showtime, HBO felt like the primo, the platinum level.
Yeah, and I think Netflix got like a little bit in
No,
on their
Charlie
stuff.
Charlie, were you a Showtime guy, right?
Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Charlie's like fuck HBO.
Yeah, man.
Charlie's like, fuck The Sopranos. I want to watch Weeds.
I always thought HBO was the premium, the creme de la creme of the three of the original, which I thought that's like as a kid growing up when somebody finally got cable, if they were, their parents really wanted to splurge, they had one of the three, let alone all.
Yeah. Well, shit. No wonder I didn't have any fucking friends over at my house. They're like, "You got cable? Yeah. What movie channel do you have? Showtime?" They're like, "Fuck this."
Charlie,
I'm
man,
like,
you
you
gotta
don't
know
get
about
Showtime late night, baby.
Skinemax,
Talking Red Shoe Diaries. I'm talking
Skinemax
crazy amounts of titties and pussy. Like it's like you don't even know, kid. So keep your HBO.
Oh, we know. We grew up pre-internet days. We know all about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That was where
Zalman Kings.
Yeah.
Red Shoe Diaries.
That's where David Duchovny got his first recurring TV job.
Anthony knows all about the VHS tapes that me and Jeremy were smuggling.
Oh my gosh.
Anthony knows
Tell us
all
the story.
about
It's a podcast.
I mean,
so back in the day before pre-internet porn, my brother and this guy literally, because I was old enough, I think they used my name or my debit card or credit card and would give me cash, and I would have to order these DVD compilations or VHSs from like
it was
Adam
like
and Eve or
6
whatever.
hour
Yeah.
And it was in the back pages, it was in those back pages where you'd send in a check and they'd be like, here's 3 6-hour VHSs for $30.
Yeah.
And we were
came
like,
in unmarked package.
So we used
to
get these tapes in, and like I said, we were some high school boys. They got tossed around. They were bartered around like literally their weight in gold. You give the guy the tape and say, I need it back in 3 days.
Yeah, I will say that currency still existed even when I went to the Marine Corps and y'all were in high school doing that stuff. Whenever a guy would ship off to someplace else, it's like, here's the collection. Pass it on to the next one. Whatever.
Here's the old box, that has in the attic.
Good old box of porn.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
so you were like a facilitator.
I've always been a facilitator.
I've told Charlie these stories about, Jeremy breaking his ankle and us trying to, us 15-year-olds, somehow getting porn tapes sent to our house and getting away with it. And you can back it up.
I think that makes me a cool older brother is what I
think. You never ratted us out, man. You always had our back. You'd whip our ass if we did something dumb, but you were cool people.
Yeah.
So but before we move on to the next segment, I wanted to know, Anthony, as our guest, just getting to know you. This is a movie podcast. What are some of your favorite movies?
I'm still big on the classics, the kind of stuff that any film school person would rate. I'm big on The Godfathers. I'm real big on a lot of the 70s stuff. But me personally, a lot of the stuff I rewatch and stuff, a lot's the stuff Ryland was mentioning earlier. I'm still a big early Sundance indie guy. If you came up out of the indie world, then I kind of stick with you until you kind of start hitting them row of duds, and then it's okay. So I'm real big Kevin Smith, Tarantino. I still watch Linklater films, who I've been fortunate enough to work with a couple times, and but I love Nolan. I can't help it. I'm a big sci-fi nerd and stuff. I watch 2001: A Space Odyssey once a year. I watch Kill Bills every 6 months to a year. I love the fantasy stuff, the Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potters. I like all that.
Dune, you're into Dune, aren't you?
Oh, dude, the first one, yeah. That was super dope, for sure. Denis Villeneuve, man, I got so fortunate. I didn't even really know. I'd seen some of his movies, but I didn't know until the Blade Runner sequel and I'm a big Ridley Scott guy from way back,
Yeah.
the early days.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you're a Ridley and you're a JC guy. You're John.
Yeah.
You're John. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You're,
for
You're
sure.
John. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think the thing was on like TCM like a month or so ago, and I watched it again, and I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, I watched the thing like 8 months ago, and here I am, I'm watching it again, and I haven't watched the it's not so bad, the prequel one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead or whatever from like the early aughts, like that one
It
wasn't
was
that bad
definitely
either.
ambitious. Definitely
Yeah,
ambitious.
I didn't realize it was a prequel until I watched it, and then I'm like, oh, that's a different take. And then you realize at the end, the wolf's running.
Are you a horror fan? I don't remember
Oh,
us ever
huge,
talking about. Yeah. That's why I thought you were a
huge.
big horror guy too. Because
Yeah.
you know, we have a big month in October on the real shit. We do our Fear 4, and I think the group as a whole just loves that time of year. We've done a couple meetups.
Oh yeah,
and
spooky season's great.
Yeah.
Like, and I love it because you get like AMC and even Turner Classics, even like just for basic cable stuff. It's like they're just running everything. And my mom had just been in the hospital for a while, and spooky season came like just a few weeks after she got out. And the very first Saturday that like she was actually like home and like kind of getting comfortable, here it is. AMC ran like every Halloween in a row for like all day, and then they repeated it immediately after. And I'm just like, man, this is so awesome. I'm literally watching every Halloween with my mom.
Do you guys remember pre-streaming when you had to catch a marathon on TV? Like you had to be prepared for it. You had to, this is a 7-hour thing. You wanted to watch all of them. Snacks, food. You couldn't leave you could leave 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Oh yeah, you get
watching,
the commercial.
watching
Yeah,
all
you get the commercial break at the end of the hour. That's when you got to run.
Yeah. But I remember watching a few marathons in my day back as a kid, and having to be prepared. No TiVo, no recording. That's what I'm saying. Back when you had to show up, be there, fucking be prepared. The whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I miss those days. That's called commitment.
I still like it when it happens, and I don't know. I think recently it seems like a whole lot of people, because of streaming, they're just like, no, I don't want commercials. Like I don't want them. But
also,
actually
you
like
don't have to watch it in an 8-hour block. You can you can pause it and take a break and go. Back in the day, it was but before recordings. I mean, you could, but a lot of my friends would record on a VHS.
Yeah.
They'd record their TV. But it wasn't used much in my house. We were kind of a live family.
Yeah. Guess what? I mean, some of us like we just got a better, sports and entertainment balance. Back then, it's like, hey, sports time is sports time, and then guess what I'm doing when I'm going home? I'm playing video games and I'm watching movies and TV.
Oh.
Yeah. I can't speak on I can't speak on bringing sports into my life. So I lived a different life than you guys. Mine was more steeped in doubling up on the movie watching, really.
But you're a music guy too, though, right? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, while I got the chance, I wanted to give a shout out. On this episode, we have my buddy Adam, who's actually he's on the wheels of steel for us tonight for the production purposes. So all of the visuals you are seeing, that's my boy Adam. He's the other half of my rap duo, if you will. I'm not sure if Ryland told you that about the music, or if you heard it through the podcast or whatever.
Yeah, I heard it through the podcast, and I thought it was pretty dope. I got to and into one episode, and it's like y'all did a song, and I was like, oh man, that's like the production value is actually like really, really high. Like on this.
Oh yeah, that was always a piece of feedback that we got. Was it might not be the most intellectual thing in the world, but man, it's really good to listen to. Like it's easy to listen to. Like you're not trying to think about what it could be. Like it's already there, Right. But we say a lot of curse words, so that's always the big takeaway. Is like, yeah, it sounds really good, but it's so vulgar. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, well, cool. That's exactly what we wanted you to say.
Guess what? Yeah, us '90s kids. Well, I mean, I guess
man.
I'm a little
Explicit
bit more
content.
'80s, but I was gonna say once I got into the '90s, man, if it didn't have the explicit on it, then I didn't want it. You
That's
know,
what
I
I'm
that was
remember
saying.
just
we
kinda
would clown on each other. We would clown on you if you had the.
Oh, you got the Walmart version?
Oh man, no, you got the. That's not
Yeah.
even like I don't
Walmart
even want.
clean version.
We'd be like I don't even want to hear that,
Yeah,
dude. This is
no.
Easy E. I won't be able to hear any of it.
That's so funny.
You got the
No, I'm not-
Easy E without the explicit. Come on.
Yeah.
I remember my sister got a copy of the Slim Shady LP, and it was from Walmart, a censored
Yep.
version. Man, what a piece of art.
Huge difference.
But what's funny is that the disc itself still had that broken piece of Vicodin on it.
Yeah.
So I mean, as much as they are trying to avoid the curse words, there's still imagery of prescription drugs being used. But whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, man, it's so nice to get to know you, Anthony. I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight to talk about Tarantino. But if everything's all good here, I want to talk about the group for a minute, guys. And we have a video accompaniment. And here we
You guys know this one? Now this is the real shit.
Gentlemen,
Shake your
I have
ass.
my
Watch
curiosity.
yourself. Shake your
Now you have my
ass.
attention.
Show me what you're working with. Shake your
My boy
ass.
Mike Dexter's going down, dude. Can't hardly wait to not hang against.
Oh no, dude!
The type.
Not against Big Rick, man. Not
I know,
against,
and I love it, but like I said in the comments, I'm like, it's still more of a coming of age. It's funny as hell. There's tons of comedy in it, but
dude, there's so many quotables from that. And
Yeah,
don't get me
I know.
wrong, I liked Can't Hardly Wait. I don't quote anything from that movie.
it's a
What?
time capsule
What?
for us. Like it is.
You don't-
It's our high school movie for me.
You don't.
It's either
you
that
don't-
or American Pie, but I think American Pie was still a little before. I think.
I was
Can't
gonna
Hardly
say
Wait
American Pie
really
is
nailed-
mine. Like
Can't Hardly
that's
Wait
my
really
high
nailed
school
it for
movie.
me. I was
So
like,
you don't-
this is it. I'm one of Mike Dexter's boys, and Charlie knows it.
So you don't find Can't Hardly Wait quotable?
Honestly, dude, I can't tell you last time I seen it, so I
Interesting.
don't even know, and I don't hear quotes. Like that wasn't
Oh,
like a
dude.
big hit for us, or maybe it's because that's the kind of the time period I was in the Marines when that one kind of hit.
Maybe.
It's just a little bit after the what do you call it, y'all psycho periods, you know?
The Psycho years.
Yeah, the psycho years, like the psycho years really started for me, like basically like junior high school.
Yeah.
But I grew up from real young, just loving this stuff. But the Marine Corps, once I got there, that's when it's like oh my gosh, like I was with people from all over the country, and everybody's got like just how the group and stuff is. Everybody's got their favorites. And I had a ton of stuff, so people were always chilling in my room watching the DVDs and doing all that, and we would talk and we would drink, and so to me, like that was when I kind of like woke up, and I'm like, man, everybody's got like different tastes and stuff. Like I'll watch anything. Like I'm kind of like Ryland. I find value in just about anything, even if I think it's crappy. Like I realized people worked on it and spent time on it, and there's usually always at least one good thing you can pull out of it, whether or not it's, you know, a joke or hey, they did a cool shot, or you know, that's cool that they did their own music or scored it, you know, and it's got an interesting score.
But okay, so for those uninitiated, if you're listening to the show for the first time, this is an accompaniment to a Facebook group called The Real Shit. And we do little competition brackets with movies. And this time around, we are doing the teen comedy bracket. And I gotta say, this thing is fierce as fuck. The you know, just the dichotomy of the votes. I mean, they're so on the extreme. Like they're willing to die on these hills. Like, you know, the matches I've seen, it's nothing but like you're tearing my heart in two.
You've had some really fucking fucked up matchups, man. I mean, 10 Things I Hate About You versus was it
Clueless?
Clueless.
Yeah.
I was a Clueless guy. I love 10 Things, but I was like,
Me too.
Clueless.
I love 10 Things
and now
also,
you got a
but-
Linklater film matched up against the Can't Hardly Wait, which, like I just said, encompassed. If you graduated, I would say from 2000 to 2002, 3. It's just our little perfect time capsule high school movie. A lot of young stars in it. Really well written. Mike Dexter, dude, what up?
Yo, Kareem, baby, what's up? No, but yes,
it's been tough. There's been some tough matchups early on, but it's been fun. There's been a lot of voting and a lot of comments. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm loving the engagement. It's kind of a bounce back from the 70s horror bracket,
Yeah.
which was a very niche marketplace as far as
Yeah.
brackets go. But now we're talking about the big dogs, the teen comedy bracket, nostalgia through the roof, and so everybody's coming out to play, man. So
We've already pissed Jeff Klein off twice, I think. So
I noticed that too.
I love it. I love it. We love you, Jeff. We love when you get pissed.
For any listeners that also play the bracket, thank you so much for participating in the bracket. I find it just such a great part of my day to be able to drop these matchups and just see how it plays out. But like you said, Dazed and Confused versus Can't Hardly Wait, so close. Same with 10 Things versus Clueless. Like, it's really close, and the numbers are high. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give a preview of a few matches that are coming up in the near future. We still have Ferris Bueller's Day Off taking on Risky Business in the first round. We have Napoleon.
Ferris is a beast.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ferris, man. Got to watch some John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
We have House Party going up against Napoleon Dynamite later on in the bracket.
Real quick. Did you guys? I grew up watching House Party a lot.
Oh yeah, me too.
I don't know if it was either on TBS all the time or
Oh,
on
it
TV,
was.
or I had the VHS.
Oh, definitely
But I watched the
TBS.
shit out of that, man. I love that movie.
Oh, House Party's so funny, and you got the first iteration of Martin and Gina from House Party. You got the guy from Bebe's Kids. I mean,
the dance, the choreography in that, the dance scene with Kid and Play, awesome, top notch.
But yeah, a few more matches. We got 16 Candles going up against Adventures in Babysitting. We got Porky's going up against Easy A. Emma Stone's playing a non-super bad role. And speaking of super bad will be going up against Juno in the first round. So a couple of contemporaries going at it and early on in the matchup. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I still have no fucking clue, like who the front runners are, like what the final four is going to be. They're all just classics. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be heavy at the end.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is just the first round, and the matchups are, I mean, pretty epic so far.
Absolutely,
tough decisions coming up.
But yeah, I'm so excited. People are enjoying it. I'm so glad. I mean, it is rather heated, but everybody stays in that space. So I appreciate everybody not starting too much shit. But what's up?
Are y'all instinctual? Like, do you just look at it and go bam? Or sometimes I look at it and I have to go, all right, I got to get my coffee in. I got to think about this. Maybe after lunch, I'll comment. Do you guys ever do that? Or are you just like, nope, this is the better one, bam?
Well, I'm the administrator, so
but you do
really
a mental track. I'm sure you mentally
I've literally had it both ways within the last week. There was some that I'm just like, damn. I'm like, it should be this, and I'd be surprised if the other one won. And then just like you, it was like oh man,
immediate.
It's like, let me close Facebook right now and think about this and come back at this in a couple hours.
Yeah, because you're right. There are some cats that can just, the second you ask the question, they can give the answer. But I mean, I guess the best way to probably do it is to go back and watch both movies and get a real fresh take on both of them. There are actually people in the other Facebook group, the Super Serious, that will make double features every single day.
Awesome.
During the initial matchups, and completely give their fresh take review, and they'll do like a whole paragraph about how they watched it, and they drank Starbucks and did all this kind of stuff. And I was so touched, and I think one of the longtime members, Jamie Anderson, she had mentioned that she went to go back and watch Can't Hardly Wait, and it changed her vote. She was all in on Dazed and Confused. but she went back and watched Can't Hardly Wait, and it impressed her so much, she went with Can't Hardly Wait. So I thought that was pretty cool. Shout out to Jamie on that one. But any other thoughts on the teen comedy bracket before we move on, guys?
Oh, I'm excited to see the final. I think it'll be an epic for the next bracket of champions.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, any one of them are going to be worthy of playing in the bracket of champions. But after all that, guys, we have a game to play. Y'all ready to play a fun game?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do this. All right. So this week, we are doing the top 3. We haven't played top 3 in actually a little bit, Ryland, if I'm being honest. So we're bringing that back, and we're doing
surprising. It's the easy game to think of.
Right? Yeah, let's just do top 3. We're doing top 3 film sword fights this time around. Top 3. If you've ever heard the show, top 3 is pretty simple. You go from 3 to 1. Are we doing a round table here, fellas? Or are we just going to go on the list and go to the next person?
I like the original concept we had of last week, where Anthony, as our guest, can give us his top 3, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Awesome. Anthony, as our guest, I would love to hear what your top 3 movie sword fights are.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick with what I did last week, and since we're talking
did
Kill
anybody
Bills,
change their stuff?
I believe Charlie changed his.
I did.
But
something new.
Yeah. So since we're talking Kill Bills, even though I love the sword fight in Kill Bill, the first one probably better than everything. It's not on my list. I forgot to say last time I did have an honorable mention that I didn't drop, and I love the Iliad and the Eric Bana versus Brad Pitt Hector versus Achilles. That fight, I know it starts off with spears and stuff, and then goes on from there. But those two guys, those two beautiful men, that ripped, like literally trying to tear each other apart, and knowing that it's from a story that's been around for thousands of years, that's an honorable mention for me.
That was the late great Wolfgang Peterson directed that movie.
Wolfgang, I remember being hyped for that movie, and it held up. It was Troy I thought it was a great epic of the time, because there was some heavy hitters of that era, and there was it shined just as almost as bright as Gladiator. Not quite, but almost.
And you never see Pitt in those kinds of roles, in the period piece roles.
No,
he's usually playing like a modern day cat, in most of his roles, with the exception of like Interview with the Vampire or this movie. So I highly recommend Troy as well. Good watch.
Yeah, and so my third one, The Princess Bride. I mean, it's a great script by William Goldman. It's directed by Rob Reiner, who I think a lot of people might not realize, but he might be one of the best. Like, just you want your movie to be good, any genre, you get Rob Reiner. You give that guy a good script, and he will literally make you a memorable film. Pretty much almost every time. So Princess Bride, Carrie Elways as Wesley versus Mandy Patinkin as Senor Inigo Montoya. I love the banter. I love the choreography. It's probably the only sword fight I've seen that it's like this has got like true humor in it, like real good comedy, and you still kind of have that fairy tale feel about it. It's like not too serious, but it is, it's a fight.
Oh yeah, very very playful, very fun.
Yeah.
So what's your number 2, sir?
Number 2, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm a big Ang Lee guy. Big Asian films, whether they're Korean, Japanese, Chinese, I love that kind of stuff, and I'm on one of those people, like I love stuff with subtitles and things like that. And this was one of the first ones I think that kind of really hit big in the American market, other than like a Jackie Chan movie or something that was like, hey, this is something different that's going on, but you can either have it, in the Chinese and have your subtitles, or the DVD, you could even change it up, which I always thought was really cool. But Michelle Yeoh as Yuxin Lin and Sang Ji as Jin. That fight, I mean, it's just like, I'd never seen anything like that, to where it just seemed like floating throughout the sky, and that level of balance, and two women just literally like that highly skilled, and that like it's like a ballet, just across the rooftops, up the bamboo, all that kind of stuff. That's the first one that got me like kind of into that kind of stuff, and I think we see a lot more of it become more cliche these days, but that's definitely at the time I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this.
We were all blown away by that wire work. We saw some of it in The Matrix.
Yeah.
I think on a much smaller scale. But that wire work in those films where they're running along ponds or going up buildings, and that was crazy sick. And it won a lot of awards. It won, remember, didn't it almost sweep the Oscars in certain things?
It was nominated for Best Picture.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy run. Awesome film. Yeah, that's and yeah, some of the coolest acrobatic / fight choreography you'll ever see.
What I love about that fight in particular is that it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
just walking through the garden, and then bam. Here comes some flying.
Sneak attack.
There's so many good fights in that film too.
Oh
There's
my god.
just so many great scenes. I love the one in the rain with the guy against, you know which one I'm talking about. It's been forever since I've seen it, but I just remember there being the rain, the slow motion. The cinematography of that is sick. It's awesome.
Also, fun fact: the only movie I've ever seen in its entirety on a PlayStation 2 was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. My buddy Eric was so excited to show me how you could play a DVD on a PS2.
So they didn't play DVDs, or play PS2s, didn't play movies?
They did.
Oh, okay.
And I like, he was so excited to show me that it did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the one didn't.
Right, but I mean, in my estimation, either my buddy didn't have the hookups properly or something like that. But it played the DVD kind of janky. If I'm being honest, it was like the aspect ratio was a little different, a little dimmer than most DVD players. But I gave it that cadence, like, well, I mean, it's supposed to play video games, so I mean, it's not supposed to be doing this. And so I always gave it that point, but I never liked watching it on the PlayStation 2. So I was kind of when it was time to watch movies with Eric, I was like, hey, watch it over at my place.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's your number one favorite movie?
My number one, I noticed that other than Princess Bride, a lot of these are around the same time, but also from 2000, Gladiator. At that time, I was in the Marine Corps. I'd come out of boot camp, combat training, and all that. And I'm a big Ridley Scott guy. And I'm like, this is the warrior spirit, that they like just kind of ingrained in us. And when you come out the other side of that, it's like when there's a fight like going on, and the respect that like an officer like him, you see the way he carries it with the men, even in the arena, and you kind of know that Commodus is a bitch ass motherfucker, that he can train all he wants, but he ain't ever actually seen combat like General Maximus has versus the Gauls and stuff. So Ridley Scott, Russell Crowe's Maximus, Joaquin Phoenix before like he started to go on like kind of a major like more artistic run. That's like kind of like beastly Joaquin Phoenix, but I just love that movie. And the final fight, like knowing that Maximus is hurt, but he's still gonna get that ass. Like I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be such a bad move to have Maximus lose. Could you imagine if they did a little dipsy doodle on you at the end?
Yeah.
Well, like, wait, what the fuck?
Dipper wins. Yeah.
Like Joaquin is just the winner. Anyways, but yeah, I love Gladiator. I've never been into it as much as most people. Or guys, really. The dudes, they love the Gladiator.
It's just the perfect dude film. I mean, I loved it when it came out.
Dude, in the Marines, they had us literally fight in sand pits, one-on-one versus each other, and sometimes had other dudes running at you and stuff. So to me, it's like oh my gosh, this is just perfect timing. I just literally came through this.
Yeah.
No, I was impressed by the early CGI, and the last 2/3 of the movie is really good, but the first third is just so slow. Even the forest fight, I'm still like yawn. Let's get to the slave stuff. But yeah, so I'd be happy to divulge my top three on the next round. Like I told you guys earlier before we got on the air, I had a chance, seeing as how this is our second pass at the episode, to revise my top three. I forget what I initially did on my first top three, but this is going to be the official Charlie Thompson top three sword fight list. And number three, I had to go with the Three Musketeers, the Chris O'Donnell, Kiefer Sutherland, Oliver Platt. God, just the fight between D'Artagnan and I want to say it's Aramis, right? Kiefer.
Yeah.
I mean, my God. I mean, even for a Disney film, this fencing sword fight is so good, and it ends like at the very end of the brick on the castle. Like they go as far as they can possibly go before they have to talk to each other, and it's so good. Like the music and it's just so epic, and they go all over the place. I believe I had mentioned the Pirates of the Caribbean sword fight on the last episode, and just how they went everywhere.
Great replacement.
But man, the Three Musketeers, that the staging on that was so intricate, and it worked so well, and I can watch it over and over and over again. So
I think I remember that being a 92 or 93 release, and it was in schools a lot. We got to, like, when it was Christmas time and you didn't have shit to do, they put Three Musketeers on because it was a Disney movie, and if your history teacher didn't want to put on a Mickey Mouse, he was a tough guy, he would put on Three Musketeers. So it was one of those films I saw a lot as a kid, and I always loved that. Chris O'Donnell, I love you, bro. You're my favorite Robin.
Did you know whenever Chris O'Donnell got cast in Three Musketeers, he hadn't had a day of acting training?
Yeah,
not a day.
With a face like that and a set of hair like that. Sheesh.
Come on. I mean, he's the inspiration for The Bachelor. I mean, come on. I mean, it was a Chris O'Donnell movie that kicked off that entire culture. Anyways, so number two, I have to stick with my boy Rob Roy from last week. I cannot give this movie enough props. I mean, I'm not even that big of a Liam Neeson fan, but I love Rob Roy. And it's similar to the Braveheart story, and the English are taking over the Scottish lands, and he's staking his claim. But there's a great third act scene that involves this sword fight between Rob Roy, played by Neeson, and then a British royal that's played by Tim Roth. And it's
Tim Roth.
Oh man, and
Me too.
It is, and it's staged like a traditional sword fight where there's witnesses. They get to choose their armor. There's a timer, all that kind of stuff. And so what's great about this scene is that Tim Roth, he's like a fancy lad, so he gets his little fencing, very very small petite sword. But then when it's time for Rob Roy to pick his sword, he picks this
He's coming up with the two-hander,
enormous broadsword. And so before the fight even starts, you're just kind of, like there's pros and cons for both weapons. Like he could just stick Rob Roy a million times and eventually he'll go down, but one swipe from that sword and that dude's dead, and so it was just a great little, David and Goliath type of matchup, but kind of flipped on its head. And also I wanted to give Rob Roy props because it doesn't get near enough, because Braveheart just decided to go ahead and win all those Oscars that year, and just completely encompass Rob Roy. But I'm giving it a spotlight here on Spittin' the Reel Shit. And number one, I can't deny a classic. We got to go with Princess Bride, baby. Rob Reiner, Carrie Elwes.
Yeah.
They just killed it, man. And just to add on to your comments, I love the musical accompaniment that comes with the sword fight, along with the dialogue. Like anytime there's a jab or a swipe or anything, there's always like a violin that goes ring, ring, ring. It just adds to the comedic value, plus how memorable the scene becomes in retrospect. And like I said last week, I love the anticipation of the fight, like with especially with Rob Roy, there was a setup to the fight. Like you were anticipating the fight. Right. And the same thing with Princess Bride. Like there was just talk that he was getting ready. He was checking his left hand, right hand.
You gotta have a hype man. You gotta have a hype man. Something.
Yeah.
And so it just made that scene that much better because of that little, 30-second, 1 minute, time span of them getting ready to fight. And I thought it was so funny and such a memorable scene. So that's my number one, Princess Bride. Ryland, moving on to you, sir. Top 3 film sword fights.
So, all right. So my number 3, I'm going, like I said, a lightsaber is a sword, right, boys?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a light sword, lightsaber, light sword. All right.
Bro.
So we're going episode 3. We're going episode 3, Phantom Menace. Just
episode 1, baby.
I'm sorry, episode 1, Phantom Menace. It's just when Duel of the Fates hits, the music.
Yeah.
You've got
music.
Qui-Gon gets taken down by Darth Maul, and it's once you really look back at it now, years ago or years later, it's so crucial to the storyline and what happens from then on out. It's crazy to really look back at now. But when I first saw it, I really thought this was a great movie. Everybody shit on some things for episode 1, but
yeah,
it had been 20-something years, or almost whatever. I don't know how long it was. It was a long time since we had a Star Wars movie. I was stoked, and this was a great epic battle. Every one of us nerds shit our pants when we saw the dual sabers of Darth Maul, and we finally got to see them in this battle. So 2-on-1 as well. The aspects, the technicality of it, amazing. So my number 3.
Well, I'm not sure if you remember all the promo leading up to the release of this film.
Amazing.
And it was like burgeoning internet too. So it was like you could play like old flash videos of them like rehearsing the sword fight. And it was like really Liam Neeson and really Ewan McGregor and really Ray Park. Yeah. And by the way, Ray Park is one of those forgotten
props to Ray Park. I mean,
from the 2000s, like he's completely. I mean, he's probably not underrated by any stretch of the imagination.
He shows up to a lot of cons and stuff. He still does a lot of things, and
I think Andy Serkis jumped on his hype train to where he kind of took some of that love.
But
I think it's one of those characters though. He's so heavily make-upped up, but not too much. There's still a lot of emotion in his face, and I think he did a great job. And I think that's just one of probably my favorite lightsaber battle of that trilogy by far, if not top 3 of all time. So,
and it's one of those undeniable ones that even the fucking haters, even the haters, have to admit that scene, that sequence, is gold.
Yeah. And the music of John Williams elevates it to 9.9 status. Like I said, Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, you ever listen to it with headphones, you're like, what the? You can run a marathon listening to that fucking song. You can, if you're a writer, you can get it done. Put Duel of Fates in your headphones and get shit done, because it's so epic. So yeah, my top 3 or my number 3. Number 2, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Princess Bride. You guys said it all. I the only thing I added last time was the technicality. Is it Yules, or is it? You guys have been saying Elways, right?
Elways. Yeah.
I thought it was Yules.
I think you're switching the W and the L in his name.
Anyways,
I've always said Elwes.
Yeah. You can tell that they actually put a lot of effort into to learning how to sword fight, because they make it look pretty effortless, and the technicalities there, and the switching of the hands was a cool little aspect to it, and I love that. Growing up as a kid, that was one of those. If I didn't feel good, I'd want like chicken noodle soup and Princess Bride, and I was happy. But
I feel you on that.
And number 1 is Kill Bill. Anthony had enough, regal to take it off the list, because we're about to talk about it so much. But Kill Bill, the bride hacking up the crazy 88s is epic. We're about to talk about it. But my honorable mentions, I have to talk about. I'm a Highlander guy. Connor versus Kurgan. I did put down Gladiator. Anthony, amazing. There's 2 or 3 great fight scenes in that. County Monte Cristo. A lot of people don't want to talk about. Jet Li's Fearless. If you guys are into Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Jet Li's Fearless takes it to like another level. So
agreed.
But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Hey, what about the shitty James Bond with Pierce Brosnan? The last one he did when he fights the British dude, for pretty much
Jonathan
for a bet.
Die another
Just
day.
a gentleman's bet. Whoever draws blood first, and they go on this epic sword battle. It's pretty good for an old Brosnan. I mean, there's a lot of body stunt double work there, but not a bad sword fight.
You can always find the silver lining in everything, Ryland. But yeah, so thank you, fellas, for divulging your top 3 film sword fights. But before we get out of here, we got 2 more things we got to do. First thing is we got to talk about the first volume of the Kill Bill saga, Kill Bill Volume 1, and here is the trailer, guys.
Not too long ago, I was quite the professional. My friends and I, we were the creme de la creme in an exclusive industry. And we all worked for this man, Bill. Then one day, I decided to leave, settle down, and start a new life. But when I tried to get out, they did me in.
Don't you ever wake up.
I guess they should have tried a little harder.
So I suppose it's a little late for an apology, huh? You suppose correctly.
Now it's kill or be killed.
You have every right to want to get even.
Get even? Even, Stephen? I would have to kill you.
That'd be about square.
And I choose kill.
Mommy, I'm home.
Hey, baby. How was school?
One ticket to Tokyo, please. One way.
That woman deserves her revenge. And we deserve to die.
No kidding, I heard it was kind of hard.
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
Yeah. Oh, any more subordinates for me to kill?
Hi.
You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you?
For a second there? Yeah, I kind of did.
Silly rabbit.
Hard part's over.
So yeah, man. Kill Bill Volume 1, guys.
Yeah.
How excited were we? We have to talk about the man, the myth, the legend. I think first a little bit.
You want to open it? You want to open it that way with some Tarantino talk?
Yeah.
I think we should.
I think that's kind of I like me and Charlie I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not that we haven't done Tarantino yet because we didn't want to come out of the gates.
Yeah.
We'd said, being the ultimate film bros and be late to the game on top of that. I wonder how many film bros reviews there are of Pulp Fiction on YouTube right now.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is that like I didn't know how much of a film bro Ryland was when we started this endeavor.
Yeah, he had a lot to learn about.
And so the more I learned about Ryland, the more I understood, okay, cool. He's a guy's guy kind of guy. Like he loves the movie Heat and Fight Club and all just the action-packed explosions and shit like that.
Yeah, and I do love Heat.
Right. And
you're getting me excited. I want to watch it right now. What are you talking
Oh my gosh.
He's like, he wants
all-time
popcorn,
favorites.
and he wants to watch the movie Heat.
Right, and so I started realizing that some of these tentpole movies, they turn into like kind of quotathons and just this bukkake blowjob of just amazing. And so I was like, let's stray from Tarantino for just a little bit. Let's get a little bit, but we never brought him up. Because we knew the second we started talking about him.
I've got more in here. I've surprised Charlie with some of my knowledge.
The second we start talking about Tarantino, we're just gonna fucking just shower him with praise,
Yeah.
you know. And it's such a biased, you know, look. And I didn't want to have that kind of podcast,
Yep.
you know, out the gate, you know.
Well, last show, guys, we did that. I was like, all right, are we done sucking his dick? Or we? I think it was 23 minutes of just like, and you know, he's just his
and the way he does
his
this,
dialogue,
and the way he does that, he's just genius, just so.
Have you seen
incredible.
him lately? He just doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, he's in the twilight of his career, and he's still making just the best movies.
You know, but that is the big topic we talked about that I really took from last week was, is he going to make more films? That's the thing that I sat there and looked at you guys, and I was like, I never really, and it made, retrospectively now, thinking about last week and this week, I thought about it today. I was like, man, when Kill Bill came out, we had seen which I had seen at the time, you know, Reservoir and Pulp, and then Jackie Brown, and it was a long break, and we got Kill Bill, and I was so relieved. I was like, okay, because I thought at the time Jackie Brown was like, ooh, quite a bit of a drop, and then it was a 6 year, it was a 6 year gap. Most people did. Then it was a 6 year gap, so I was so stoked at the time to see Kill Bill Volume 1. I was there in the theater. I was so happy, and it was totally my style of film, you know, for a 17-year-old kid to watch.
And well, I mean, and that was a big takeaway that I got from the film, was that he was really trying to drive home the fact that you're watching a Tarantino film.
Yeah,
you know, like he was leaving nothing to chance. Like I want to say I heard a rumor about how he had read some bad review of Jackie Brown, and that's what made him stop making movies.
But I also think too, and I didn't realize this until much later, like during those lean years, he was actually like script doctoring for his buddies and stuff, like like Crimson Tide, the whole Silver Surfer thing, and all that. That's literally like Quentin wrote that whole part, and it's like when you know that later, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, Quentin totally wrote that, because that's so out of place in that movie compared to the tone of the whole rest of the. I mean, they're about to fire nukes.
Have you ever thought about his world and how he writes? And I'm like, I wonder, it's not easy to churn these things out. I mean, you know, Stephen King can do it, but I feel like these take a while to write as a script, correct? I mean, do you think he writes these quick? Do you think these are 2-3 year writing projects, or you think he writes them quick, has a good idea, and then he's like, all right, I got this, you know, Django, I got a Western, slave Western infused kind of movie. Where's my money? Then he starts writing. Or I wonder how he does it, because he's just, whenever he wants to make another movie, I mean, they're just like, okay, how much do you want? Right? I mean, it's just, I wonder how he creates new content, being like a mega director, an untouchable.
I think he's the type that he has. I mean, I've tried writing scripts and stuff. I've studied them. I've taken classes in college and, you know, outside classes even. And I own almost every screenwriting book you can think of. And everybody's got, you know, hey, here's the format, but everybody's got kind of a different take on what you focus on. Right. But in his mind, the way he talks and everything, I've always thought that he has a germ of an idea that literally just sits there and percolates for years. And then when he's ready, he like bangs out a draft, and then he lets it sit for a while. And then he goes off and does some other stuff or watches a whole bunch of movies. And then he comes back and probably does a revision. But I wouldn't be surprised if almost every film of his we've seen, if you're not talking about a minimum of 8, if not 12, 13 drafts by the time that the shooting script versions that I owned and read of all of his films.
All his dialogue. I mean, it has to be.
Oh my God, he's so amazing. Fucking, he's just the greatest fucking living director of all time.
Yeah, Death Proof is underrated.
No, let's keep a critical head here, fellas. But yes, I mean, his way of writing, it's still speculative. We can't really remark on those kinds of things. We can really just speculate. But what we can do is talk about this movie. And usually Ryland's my numbers guy.
Yeah.
What did Miramax give Tarantino for this movie?
So, and we talked about this last week as well, but what I have written down is it was pretty much a 30-30 split. He got 30 for the first one. Now, I think that was based on how well it did. I mean, if obviously they probably gave him 30 million to do volume 1, which grossed 180. So he call it knocking it out of the park.
God, 6 times its budget.
I
yeah.
mean, so I don't know if because this, I don't know, this could have been a plan to make one long movie, which I think he initially was really pulling for, and I think the studio knew how much money it was going to make, and he really wanted it to be his little baby. And then when it made 150 million, he was like, "All right, I'm at the mercy of you guys now because I made y'all 150 fucking $1 million." So, right. I mean, it's give and take. I mean, yes, he wants the money, but he's also contractual going, all right, well, I got to make another one and it's got to be probably within the same budget and it's got to be good. So,
well, I mean, on top of that, I mean, he's also asking for, in terms of an action movie, he's asking for bare bones.
Yeah.
As far as a budget.
Yeah, because he's coming off of Jackie Brown and Pulp and Reservoir. No big budget at all there. So
yeah, they're
this
not
is by
big
far
grossers.
his first big budget film, and 30 million in 2002 or 2003 is not a lot of money.
I think they were filmed back to back.
No,
that ain't a lot of money.
2001, 2002.
It's not a lot of money because he gets a lot of older actors, actresses. A lot of that's how Tarantino likes to do it. He gets these. He doesn't want to. I don't think he want. Now he does. Now he can afford the Leos, but back then he's like, I'm going to make this my way. It's going to make a shit ton of fucking money, and then that's his career. To be honest, I think this is his money. This is where he really went. Okay, there's no worry about him as a director after Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yeah, but before Kill Bill, I think he was all nerves, man. I think he was.
Yeah.
He was definitely showing his mortality.
Yeah.
With releasing Kill Bill and having no idea how it was going to play. Right. If his 90s fan base was going to stick with him, if people were past Tarantino films, has the Nolan film become the new Tarantino film type of talk, but then you get into the movie, which I would love to just explain the narrative here.
Yeah.
So Kill Bill Volume 1 plays like this. It opens up with a black and white screen of a lady covered in blood and a man that you can't see talking about sadism and masochism. And all of a sudden there's a reveal that there's a baby that's this gunman's. All of a sudden goes to black, credits roll, comes back up to a domesticated house where doorbell rings, the homeowner answers it. It's Uma Thurman. All of a sudden, a fight breaks out between the homeowner and Uma Thurman. They have a long, big battle. Then you find out who the person at the door was, who is called the bride ceremoniously. And you find out what her plight is. And she is on this mission to kill all the people that were responsible for her pseudo death a few years earlier from the black and white screen at the very beginning of the film. And so basically the rest of the film documents her near death, her revival, and then eventually getting onto her first would-be victim. And then in classic Tarantino fashion, you find out that the very first fight was the second fight all around. And so, yes, it's just a bloodbath of a movie. She prevails at the very end. She's able to best her would-be assassin, and then we kind of get a cliffhanger for Volume 2. I just wanted to make sure we hit all the narrative points before we move on. And I got to say, I mean, in classic Tarantino fashion, I mean, what I love about his films is there's always something interesting happening. It's never boring. Just from the jump. I mean, it's an extreme fight inside of a domesticated suburban house, and just the sound mixing, the glass breaking, the wood shattering, everything. I mean, it's so reminiscent of like early 70s, kung fu films, which I loved. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'll let you guys talk now. I apologize.
Oh no, good.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
in total
Anthony.
agreement. I'm in total agreement, Charlie. That's literally like I was anticipating this film so much, but I knew of his fandom for the 70s B movies. And me personally, like I remember staying, I was always a late night person. And I remember on things like Sundance and IFC channel and stuff, or even like, gosh, things like USA channel and stuff back in the day, they would show these like exploitation films like late on a Saturday night and stuff. And, and just I always found them so interesting because I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of goofiness and stuff to them, you know, with the dialogue usually being offset, or you know, you could tell that it's like, oh man, they had to ADR everything on this because the sound guy probably screwed everything up. But his fandom of those genres, and that's I mean that's one of the main reasons that after looking through everything y'all had covered, I mean I literally rewatch these movies every 6 months or at least a year,
Okay.
and I watch them back to back, like and I mentioned it last week. Like to me, I'm a big epic film guy, and to me this is basically one film with an intermission between the two, and
Okay.
because of Harvey Weinstein, he made us wait like 5 or 6 months in between them. When I'm pretty sure if you'd ask Quentin, like I bet you anything at the New Beverly or whatever, he would show them back to back. Like, but yeah, I love the fact that there's so many genres and subgenres wrapped up between these two films and how they kind of counteract with each other. I mean, out of the gate, we pretty much know right away that we're getting like a 70s Charles Bronson, you know, Death Wish Revenge, you know, type thing. And then we're straight up jumping into a suburban kung fu fight, like right after that cold open. And I will say this, because I didn't think about it until just a few minutes ago, of his credit sequences and the way that stuff just pops is always like something that you just don't see done as much anymore, but kind of harkens back to those older days to where, I mean, Stranger Things does it for like Netflix, and the Duffer Brothers do that on purpose.
Yeah.
But like I remember rewatching these last week and being like, man, I forgot how cool these fucking credit sequences are in the cold open and just the bam, next thing you know, you're up in it. Like, so I really appreciate that.
We mentioned that. We mentioned that last week when you pop in this film, especially, or you know, most Tarantino films. He comes at you either with the sound or that classic Tarantino font, the intro, and this one especially. It's just you sit down and you're like, oh, I'm watching a Tarantino film. You know you're going to be completely engulfed and entertained for 2 hours plus.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
we
gonna
talked
be
about.
I'm gonna be drinking my Coke and eating my Reese's Pieces.
Well, we talked about Crimes of the Future on the last episode, Ryland.
Yeah.
And how I instinctually was just not feeling the opening. Like it was just too much, a little bit too pretentious, not enough information. But I mean, in my opinion, just the first 10 minutes of Kill Bill Volume 1, like you feel safe. You're just like, okay, good. I don't have to try and enjoy this movie. I can just enjoy this movie, you know. And I think that's what a lot of people felt whenever they watch Kill Bill Volume 1, is just like, you know, this dude is back, you know, and he's just as clever, and his storytelling is just as unique, you know, like with all these little quirks in the story, and you know, Michael Parks with the spaghetti western portion, and you know, the anime portion of the movie that's just straight anime. You know, that's very, very ambitious stuff, you know?
That I remember sitting back and watching that in the theater going, man, he really is making his own thing. I mean, I read a little bit into it at the time, but, you know, like I said, this was baby internet days, but I remember being so excited hearing some interviews with him saying, I finally, you know, this is the movie, you know, if you're a kid or just a fun, over the top, crazy samurai 70s kung fu, crazy dialogue, crazy characters, tons of blood type style movie, and he made it, and it's just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and I think Charlie and I were talking about it last week. The anticipation that like I had for this film is, I am one of those nerds. I had Entertainment Weekly, I had Premiere Magazine, I had Filmmaker Magazine, and you would get these little snippets about he was saying it's like, I'm making the film that I want to make. And it's like, man, back then there's only a handful of people that studios would be like,
Yeah.
Hey man, here's your budget. Like you do it. I mean, at any time we can pull it, but
and a female lead in Uma Thurman. I mean, he brought back
Yeah.
Uma. Everybody was stoked about Uma, and it's a female heroine, and it's of the early 2000s. Of course, they're doing it now a lot. I just heard the phrase "MCU" the other day, and that made me
That's funny.
laugh. Instead of the
That's funny.
MCU, the MCU, and it's this whole. I'm like, oh,
because
God.
of She-Hulk and all that stuff. I'm
just
guessing.
I mean, everything is pretty much a female lead now, but it just made me snark. But yeah, I mean, this guy, he put a great. I thought Uma was perfect casting for this. She encompasses the bride completely. She's some of the. I mean, you can tell she put in a lot of work. I mean, the Kill Bill. This was just a couple years after Matrix, and I heard she was putting in that kind of work. I mean, she had to do a lot of crazy, weird kung fu training and flexibility stuff. So she pulls it off well, really well. I mean, it's some of the stunt work and stuff, and it's just awesome. So.
Well, speaking of stunt work, I mean, this is the first collaboration of Tarantino and Zoe Bell, who for the longest time played the stunt woman for Xena Warrior Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as that TV show got canceled, she was kind of unemployed. And then along came Tarantino with this bride idea.
Shout out Death Proof.
And and there's even a documentary, I think it's called Double Dare, documenting Zoe Bell's, a journey to Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And even Tarantino was like, we were completely fucked until we found Zoe.
Wow.
Like, so she was unemployed. Yeah. She needed a job. We needed an experienced stunt woman. Like, it was just symbiosis, man. Like, and it just worked out so perfectly. And it's I think that's just pretty awesome that, that just meeting new people, new collaborators that would join them later on, in their filmmaking career. I think it's pretty fucking dope. But I guess
we all a big Lucy Liu fan.
Oh
I could take her or leave her.
Man, I love.
I love her. I love
Lucky
her.
number 11.
I mean, yeah,
Lucky
she's
number
so
11 and Charlie's Angels. I mean, she just did a lot of early 2000 stuff. But man, she's one of my faves. She's great.
Hey, I will mention though, I have friends that do stunt work, and that's something I don't even think I brought up last week. But I'm sure y'all get a kick out of this. When you actually work on stuff behind the scenes and stuff for a while, it gets kind of boring. So the big stunts and blowing shit up, or you're gonna have a fight and shit's gonna break and all that. That is literally, or a car chase. That's the most fun shit to work on.
Oh yeah.
And for a locations guy like me, it's oh my gosh, so we're literally gonna like destroy this house, and then it's gonna be part of my job to like make sure that everything like gets fixed in this house, or we gotta shut down this road. So yeah, like even that fight between Uma and Vernita Green, in the house, I love stuff like that because it's like you just realize everything that goes into it, and the stunt work in this movie is just freaking awesome, like across the board. So I'm with you, Charlie. People like Zoe Bell and stuff, like I literally wish the Oscars would do the stunt category, because those of us in the industry know how important those people truly are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I guess I had a couple more points before we move on to the second feature. One is the most common criticism of a Tarantino film is that he just takes too long with his scenes. He stays with a scene for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes longer than it needs to be. Did you feel any of that in this film?
I don't personally, but also too, I mean, I think Quentin's such a film fan that I think a lot of that stuff truly is like homage to, prior people.
So
like I think Charlie, and I know you're going to bring it up because you can't leave it off after last week, but I mean, there's straight up stuff in this that is straight up Brian De Palma. I mean, it is like, and De Palma, that's one of the things that, he's known for, is holding on to that stuff a little bit too long. But I will say all that stuff's done with intent, and it is obvious.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's what frustrates the critics sometimes, is that it's unnecessary. It's glad-handed. It's really him just stroking his own ego, which there's a certain amount of selfishness that goes in filmmaking, but really you're making it for an audience, and so that's a big thing the critics always hit on with Tarantino. But I want to say the Hattori Hanzo stuff was a little dragging. Especially, it just takes so long to get there until we finally get to Tokyo,
Yeah.
And that's my only criticism in this film with the narrative is the Hattori Hanzo stuff. They could have just kind of sped that up in a montage sort of way, but they didn't. They really parsed it out, and so it just takes that much longer to get to the Crazy 88 fight. But that's all I had for Kill Bill Volume 1, guys. Anything else we get to before we review this film?
Oh, I think the film. I mean, I love the ending. I love it's complete, badass, just over the top, violent. Quentin Tarantino film, and we hadn't seen one in 6 years. He came back roaring. This was fucking amazing. I was so stoked after seeing this, and I was stoked for Volume 2. So yeah, we're gonna rate this thing. I remember giving it. Pretty sure I gave it a 9.3.
Okay, you gonna stick with that?
Yep.
Very high score, 9.3. I guess I'll go second. Anthony, you can bring up the rear on this.
Gotcha.
I guess like I said last week, it's all Tarantino, and he wanted to make sure that you understood what you were watching, and that he was back, and he's willing to make more pictures, and he's really excited about making films. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I saw from the film is that he's excited. He's excited about telling these stories again. But like I said, with the Hattori Hanzo stuff, it does drag. You really have to do a lot of investment, a lot of Tarantino fandom, a lot of faith needs to happen, because it's a long movie, and there's a lot of different elements in the film where if you don't appreciate it, you might just find it confusing. And so, but all that together, at the end of the day, I want to give this movie an 8.7 out of 10. Very high score, not necessarily a 9, just because, in my view, I think this is one film. So to cut it in half, it's already kind of original sin, and so I take away points with that. The dragging, that's the usual Tarantino, flaw. But man, the colors pop. The lighting is so natural. A lot of natural light in this film, and then the editing, the sound design. I love the old 70s, the sound effects with that ring, and it's iconic now, so just props to Tarantino. Yeah, 8.7. Anthony, what would you give this film?
Yeah, and I'll just hit a little bit on what y'all said is to go this far and not mention, it's like, man, this is the RZA's first,
Oh, there you go.
It's his first score.
Sound.
And it's the Wu-Tang. And I think it all just comes together so great. I love these films. I truly adore them, but also too, I'm not a person that I've seen enough films to where I don't know that I would rate any film a 10. So for me personally, even though I've watched these so many times, I'm gonna stick with like I did before. To me, it's a straight up 9. And to me, that's the highest of praise. There's a few films that I love more and that are obviously much more well done that I would go higher than a 9. But for pure love and just the genre mixing and like you said, the lighting, I think the costumes are fantastic. The props, everything. It's to me a very, very solid 9 in my book.
Not to mention the practical effects, and if you don't like Tarantino and you've never seen this film, I got to say, at the very least, get on YouTube and watch the Crazy 88 sword fight. I mean, that alone, it's a good 20 minutes of just mayhem, and it's a great way to kind of show Tarantino's action style. So that's all I got for Kill Bill Volume 1. Yeah,
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
But last thing we got to do before we get out of here, guys, is talk about the second half of this saga, Kill Bill Volume 2. And here's the trailer, guys.
Tonight's feature presentation is so fucking scary, it'll take the wrinkles out of your nutsack and fade your butt hairs. So get ready, motherfuckers! All right, shut the fuck up. Start the movie.
The incident that happened at the Two Pines wedding chapel that put this whole gory story into motion has since become legend.
That woman deserves her revenge, and we deserve to die.
I've killed a hell of a lot of people to get to this point, and I am gonna kill Bill.
Before this tale of bloody revenge reaches its climax, there's a few unanswered questions. If I May doesn't kill you, he will make you stronger. Being shot you in the head. There are consequences to breaking the heart of a killer.
Pretty cool, huh?
She's coming to kill you.
You see Cutter wade through 88 bodyguards.
No, there wasn't really 88 of them. They just called themselves the Crazy 88.
How come?
I don't know. I guess they thought it sounded cool.
Hi, Mommy.
So it all suddenly seems so clear.
I was a killer who killed for you. I had to choose. I chose her. She must suffer to her last breath. You and I have unfinished business.
Baby, you ain't kidding. I'm sorry. I overreacted.
You overreacted?
He's just always stuck with me, dude. He's always been there in I'm like, that's a good fucking actor, that Ethan Hawke.
Dude,
He's got mad chops, son. I forgot that he's in Dead Poets, and I saw the scene with him and Robin when he's trying to figure out the poem in his
Captain, my
head.
Captain.
It's like, man, young Ethan. He's like a little baby in that, but he's just such a good actor, dude. I love that guy.
Sorry, guys.
And he's a Texas boy.
We got off on a Linklater tangent while the trailer was playing, and so that went from that to Dead Poets Society, and then now we're here. I love the way the movie talk trail happens. But we're not here to do the movie trail. We're here to talk about Kill Bill Volume 2, and man. And in all honesty, like I said before, I always thought of this as one big movie. But if you had to separate it into two films, I got to say I kind of like this one better than Volume 1. Yes, there's a ton more talking, a ton more dialogue, but I think there's a lot more story there. There's a lot more heart, a lot more Bill, for sure. And then just the sinister nature where it's not super over the top, where it's very personal, like all of them.
Initially I remember seeing this as a young guy being like, oh, it's not even close to the level of action and stupid violence and all that. So I was like, it's a bore. But now that I've rewatched and I appreciate the shit out of it because it's equally brilliant. It's just as good, just in a different way, different tone, a lot more dialogue, like you said, more character driven, more Bill and Bride, which is the only reason all this is happening. So you appreciate a really good story. You need this. You wish it was a little more balanced. And I think he could have made an amazingly good, just trim some fat off and make this one movie, and it would be really good.
Right. So like I did last time, let's go over the narrative of Kill Bill Volume 2. The Kill Bill Volume 2 starts out the same way that Kill Bill Volume 1 does, with a black and white scene at the wedding chapel. But you get to see what happens before the massacre, the entire conversation between everybody, including the bride and Bill. And then of course it cuts away after the slaughter happens. Then we continue with our story, which cuts to a still black and white of Uma Thurman driving in this amazing little MG sports car, and which we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, she kind of lays out the first volume and says that she's on her way to go find Bill, and then we just continue the story of Kill Bill, which kind of lands on the character of Bud, played by Michael Madsen, who's apparently not very in a good space since the massacre at Twin Pines. He finds himself in a trailer park, working at a strip club as a bouncer. But it doesn't matter to the bride. He's still going to die regardless. So the bride meets up with him. He's able to best the bride, bury her alive. But the bride did not fall victim to death that day because she was able to get out of the grave, get her retribution through L. Driver, who had also killed Bud before the bride arrived. And then by the time all of the minions were slayed, it was time to go find Bill. And on her journey, she has to find an old surrogate uncle of Bill's named Esteban to find out where he's at. She finally locates Bill, and the big twist is that the daughter is alive and well, and also up to date on what's going on with the death of her mother. And the last 20 minutes or so is, a reconciliation of mother and daughter, the eventual death of Bill, and then just the celebration of the bride and her new life with her daughter, and then credits roll. It's a fantastic little film, man. It gets there through talking, which I thought was one of the most impressive parts of this film. Where with Kill Bill Volume 1, if your big takeaway was we were done talking and we're just going to start slinging swords, he definitely curled it back and he brought you back to old 90s Tarantino with Volume 2. I'll quit talking. Thoughts, guys, overall, Kill Bill Volume 2.
I don't think I emphasized the score enough in the first one. I mean, the second one too. The music's so crucial to these two movies, and it's, I think, just as much or more maybe in the second one. Equally, they have different musical tones too, but
Right.
it's just he's a master of that. He's a master. This is, he's a master of his craft in so many ways, but just this one's just a lot more character development, plus just the story gets you get a lot more of the L. Driver character's meaning, and then I like the Bud character is great. There's that semi horror scene of her being buried. There's a lot more depth. There's a lot of depth to this one. And then you get the finale, which is, you have to watch it 2 or 3 times to really grasp it and appreciate that ending. And I was expecting more at the time, of course, because of what I was chewing on after Volume 1, but once you look back at it now, and I'm 20 years older now, I'm going, oh man, no, this is a great cap to this 2-part saga.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like it's a big tonal shift. I mentioned to y'all last time we go from the kung fu and stuff, and to me, this is a subversive Western that's still got the the revenge tilt on it, and that's the lens I see it through. Yeah. The character development, yeah, like that's the key thing. And if you thought that you were gonna, it was gonna just go full bore, like the end of the first one was after the crazy 88 fight, then it's like, no, this is a revenge story. This is
pacing slower.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the pacing's quite a bit slower, but it's still grasps you, and there's no boring. Like you said, it's a Tarantino film. There's really never anything boring in it. He may grab onto some scenes and make you hold and go like this for a while, but I'm still interested looking at anything Tarantino points his camera at. I'm like,
right.
All right, why is he looking at her feet? Oh, now I know why. Because he's a foot guy,
and that's why.
but so every time, it doesn't matter. Whatever his camera's pointed at, I'm going.
What's happening? Yeah.
But there's more of that. But also, it's just this is just. I think. I really wish he could have made this into one film and just trimmed a little bit off of it. I think it would have been like I said, this is. But Uma's great in it. I can't say enough about. I'm trying to kind of cap them both off. But Uma's amazing. Right. Michael Parks coming back to play Esteban. That was a cool tidbit I didn't know about until I researched again for this podcast. I didn't know he was the country detective, the dad of the. he's wearing the big aviators. You don't really see his face as much. But then I heard Tarantino talk about the story of saying he had hired a different guy and he couldn't make it, so he said, I can play that part. And you look at it and you're like, that's the same guy. I mean, his accent, I'm like, is he Esteban in real life, or is he the country detective in real life? I mean, who is he more like? Because he kills Esteban. If he doesn't have a Latin accent or that kind of suave swagger, he knows how to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you know who he had originally
dirtbag
cast.
Swagger, that dirty dirtbag kind of guy, but that just Latin. He's like the most important man in the world, but or most interesting man in the world.
Yeah,
I
was gonna say,
but a sleazy one, a pimp version, the greasy one.
Well, I'm not sure if you know who he originally cast as Esteban, but it was Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, Montalban.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Fucking Khan from Star Trek 2.
And he couldn't read or something, and Tarantino was like, "Well, see ya then."
Yeah, I mean, like they needed to get the shot, and Michael Parks was already on set. Yeah. So it was like, cool, he can do it, fam. Let's just do it. And yeah, like you said with the Western, that's a very fun touch to it, because if you look back at most Westerns, it is a lot of talking. It's a lot of lawman type stuff with just very few bright spots, but the bright spots are obviously there, with it being like, the anticipation of the gunfight at the end of the movie, or just an impromptu brawl. You can analyze that through the El Driver trailer park fight. I mean, that was a huge high point as far as action goes, and in my opinion, the best sword fight of the entire saga. Like, I thought it was the most well choreographed. They really chewed the setting. Like they used all the pieces of that house, like the chalk can and the toilet and just everything. It just showed how well they fought, like hand to hand, kung fu, aikido, sword fight, whatever. They were just ready for everything.
And it had a
Bud
2-ply
still having
trailer.
his sword.
And Bud's shitty 2-ply trailer, just to the walls are as thin as 2-ply toilet paper.
And it used the same editing style as the '88 fight.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just one-on-one, but it still had that same kinetic energy
and way more small space.
Yeah, it's literally the opposite. It's such an enclosed space versus the club being a huge space, shot very wide. Whereas this is all shot up close. Like, it's lots of close-ups. It's lots of like hand-to-hand combat, even like.
And that's funny you bring that up, because I think that Tarantino's subverting expectations at every turn. Just like you said, like you thought it was going to be one thing, it's a whole other thing. Like I said last week, like the scene where the bride finally finds where Bill's living. In most Western type revenge films, the second they get to the lair, it's always they're creeping. It's a cat and mouse kind of game. But like with this story, Kill Bill, like she breaks in, they're expecting her. Yeah. They're waiting for her to arrive to have a sandwich with her. And like it's just such a crazy, narrative twist, to where like everything's out on Front Street. Even the daughter's aware that the dad fucked up and that mommy's mad at him and all this kind of stuff. And then
but I've always, even watching that numerous times, always thought back of that, and I'm like, is she a little brainwashed? Is he like, how does he get her to get on board like that?
Oh,
She's smart kid.
Bred. That the whole reason that Uma's character, the bride, Beatrix Kiddo, the whole reason she was leaving Bill is because she knew that Bill was going to train her to be. She would have been an even greater assassin than her mom was.
Yeah, groom her from the beginning.
Trapped.
Yeah.
And it's like.
But what do y'all think of the ending? I remember we had some different thoughts. When I first initially thought, or when I first viewed it 20 years ago, I wanted a little more action. I wanted to see Carradine maybe take a stance and do a couple of twirls or something, and you don't get that. And Charlie's Charlie's good with it.
Like a nice sword fight where he's got her at the neck. He's like, "You will die, Beatrix."
I don't expect to.
And then they break up and have another 5 minutes of sword fighting, and then he finally dies.
No. I just wanted just a taste. Like I said, I don't need a Transformers 4 battle scene. I just wanted for them to maybe get out of a chair? Is that too much to ask?
Dude, they did get out. He did get out of a chair. He walked 5 steps and he fucking died.
The entire little swoopty swoop thing is they're all sitting at a nice table, like a nice wooden outdoor table that I'd die to have in my backyard. But
I think, I mean, but it's the two greatest assassins in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
You know, like how do you choreograph a sword fight with those two people?
Well, and
you know,
finally
the best,
realize
I think,
they don't want to fight; they have to fight.
Right, and so how do you choreograph that? Like, I think Tarantino went about it the best possible way, where it was like, she revealed she revealed a secret, that she never told him, ever.
Yeah. Well, throw in the 5-point palm, you know,
exploding heart technique,
exploding heart technique, but but throw that in after a couple of ching 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 wing wing wing, you know, something.
They did. There was.
Okay. It doesn't count if you're not standing up.
Oh, so that's a sword fight to you? Is 3, 2, 1, go?
Look, Charlie. I'm in the final battle scene. Kill Bill Volume 2. Whoa, that was close.
But you see, that's exactly where the selfishness comes in. Is that Tarantino? He wasn't trying to find some happy middle ground for the Rylands and the Anthony Foremans of the world. He was looking. He was going completely bipolar. Either it's a sit down one-on-one, or it's one person versus 90 motherfucking people. You know, like, and I love the fact that he never compromised any of that. You know, that he and God, I'm fucking showering him with praise again. God damn it.
Non-stop.
You know,
he blew his wad in the first one. I get it, but you know,
I was gonna say, Charlie, you just hopped right back on that dick, dude.
I'm telling you, brother. Like, I can't
it's just
help
natural.
myself.
It's like a fish to water, dude.
and it's all credit to him. Like, I
The work she had to put in a short amount of time to learn all that, you know, stunt work, and on top of that, like I said, that terrible car accident she was in, she was never the same, which is really sad because it torn her relationship with her and Quentin. You know, it was a big deal. So
they had to bring
maybe
legal people. Yeah, it was a whole thing, man.
She was really fucked up, and that's another thing. You know, you see that on these movie sets. You just saw Alec Baldwin deal with it, but terrible things happen, and she's lucky that she was alive, let alone, I mean, she had some serious spine damage and stuff. It was just sad. Right. But you see that at the end of this movie, there's some raw emotion there, but that caps off. And like I said,
catharsis.
I always watch these movies together. Catharsis. Anthony does it too. I think these movies need to be watched together. They're amazing.
But I still feel that you can be satisfied with that ending, having only watched Volume 2. I mean, it really helps to watch Volume 1 to get the full story, because, like I said last week, I think that it's realistic in the way that, you know, by Part 2, she's really tired. You know, so, like, she's already killed like 100 people, and so like it's natural to like dial down, you know, just the endurance and the agility of this chick. And so now it's cat and mouse type of stuff, as opposed to come get me, motherfucker, you know. And so I think that's it's pretty genius in the realm of Tarantino that he anticipated that. And again, I'm doing it again, but
well, what are you going to rate it? I think you rated this one higher than the first one.
I did. Last thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned it last week, I want to get on record, was that last scene, you know, where the Magpie cartoon is playing, and it cuts to her in the bathroom, and she's just kind of writhing on the ground, and she starts bawling, and then she starts laughing, you know, and like tears of joy almost. And I had submitted that that in the narrative of this movie, this is what she's going to have to do the rest of her life, like every single morning, is wrestle with this regret. You know, like did she make the right choice? You know, like was Bill the love of her life? And if he is, like she's the one that murdered him. You know, but then at the end, she realizes that she made the right choice because she's with her daughter. You know, and I feel like that's the thing that she's gonna have to wake up and do every single day for the rest of her life is just, you know, just worry about that. And I mean, not to mention that the cops are trying to find her. You know, I'm sure there's some kind of law enforcement agency that is on to Beatrix Kiddo and is trying to find her. But yeah, I thought it was very sweet. I thought it was very realistic of a top tier assassin that just killed her boyfriend and ran off with her kid, which is it's something that not a whole lot of people can relate to, you know. You know, so for him to add a little bit of realism is pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
yes,
Just a basic story of motherhood.
yeah, exactly. Motherhood and Hattori Hanzo Steel. But yes, I do. Like I said, I enjoyed this one better than Volume 1, and I'd be willing to give this a 9.3. Man, very talky, but the action when it happens is fantastic. The dialogue, the storytelling, the world building, like the way they had set up Pai Mei before you even see Pai Mei, is pretty fucking awesome. Which is, you know, just classic Tarantino. But yeah, 9.3. Kill Bill Volume 2, and on the whole, I think the saga gets pushed down the ladder a lot in the catalog of Tarantino just because it went down the way it did with the 2 volumes and all that kind of stuff. But if anybody watching this hasn't seen it yet, I highly recommend both films. So, Ryland, what's your take on Kill Bill Volume 2?
I think it's slightly just less grabby for me. You know, when I first watched it, even rewatching, I still think Volume 1 edges it out just a tad. But I'm giving it a 9.0 because I think them as a whole, you take the average, it's like a 9.5, 9.15, 9.2 saga. I think the acting's top notch. Uma's just nails it. I think she's great. I wish she didn't get hurt in this last movie, and it probably changed her. And like I said, Tarantino's relationship, you haven't seen her in anything since. But yeah, this was so fucking fun to revisit. I remember being so stoked for these films. After this, I knew I was going to see a lot of Quentin Tarantino films for the near future, and he's done nothing but please me and tons of fans for the last 2 decades, 3 decades. So I just wish he'd keep going. But yeah, 9.0.
Anthony.
Yeah. So
Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, to finish off this circle jerk, how Charlie's averages out to a 9, and we both agree and think that it's the same film. I stick with my 9, and I'm in agreement with Charlie. I honestly think that this is a perfect ending to the movie. Like, I love the pacing. I love the fact that she drops that motherfucking move on him, and he did not see. He saw everything else coming from her. He predicted everything else, but he didn't expect that. So, for knowing that the names of the films are Kill Bill, and we know that she is going to kill Bill at some point, I was not expecting that, and just that catharsis of how, like Charlie said in the first film, it's all adrenaline. I mean, she is just go, go, go. And then by the time she gets to fucking Bud, I mean, it is like she's been through some fucking shit. And then Bud hands her ass.
Rock salt, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the only one literally the only one that bested her. So it does kind of make you wonder sometimes how much
she
of a
didn't even
badass
touch
Bud was.
Yeah. She didn't even touch Bud. Bud was like, I win.
Yeah.
Remember, he's like, I win. I'm
Yeah. You're going to go into that fucking hole either this way or this way.
And that's great on those, like, you know, like he loves those references, like you talked about anime references a lot in the first volume. I mean, there's so much like Straw Dog, Sam Peckinpah, you know, kind of you know, feel to it.
Johnny Cash playing.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Listening to Johnny Cash before the Man in Black before he hands her.
Absolutely.
Her
I mean,
ass.
a majority of Bond films can probably be credited to the last third of this film with the exotic locales and, you know, the costume change and, you know, she's ready to do battle. She has her glasses.
The cool little car.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
she's
it's just,
practically a female Bond in that last third.
yeah.
Never
you know,
thought of
it's-
it that way, Charlie. Good.
That's right. And he,
You know,
and
you know I'm a
even
Bond guy.
and even the first scene is like it's a throwback to the Searchers. You know, like the
yeah.
the all black surrounding with the one natural
the-
lit window in the
yeah.
middle. You know,
Yeah.
that's such a Searchers reference. You know, like and so he's still giving you film history knowledge on Volume 2. It's just not near as overt. You know, so yeah, I implore anybody, go watch Kill Bill Saga. It's really good. And I think that about wraps it up, guys. I had a great time talking with you guys. Anthony, thanks for taking a second take with us.
Yeah,
on this
man.
Oh,
episode,
for sure.
dude.
For sure.
I really
I've
appreciate
loved it.
I'm always
Loved
a big
it and loved the group.
Hell
I'm
yeah,
a big
man.
proprietor of people's time. So anytime anybody's willing to spend some time with me talking some movies, I'm always grateful, dude. So,
Yep.
but yeah,
Once a guest, always a guest, man. You ever want to come back on?
Oh yeah, I
You
already
just-
told Charlie during
you
the
just
break
holla.
earlier.
You just
Whenever
holla.
y'all
Holla
want
at
to
me.
talk something else, y'all just let me know.
Holla
I
at me.
love this
Holla, holla.
stuff and
Holla,
love,
holla, holla.
love talking films with everybody.
Absolutely.
Love the group and everybody's takes and the brackets and all that. And so I just really appreciate you guys having me on and letting me play a part in this thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. So, for Ryland Johnson and Anthony Foreman, my name is Charlie Thompson, and we have been spitting the real shit. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out.
Everybody was kung fu